Hey there. Hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy. Today, I want to talk about rapport building. A lot of times I focus on theory drives application, and I talk a lot about you really need to learn a theory because theory will influence or dictate how you show up in your play therapy sessions. What do you do in your play therapy sessions? How do you respond to your clients in your play therapy sessions? How do you make sense of what's going on in your therapy sessions? It'll influence how you involve parents or caregivers in the process. So I focus a lot on that. And today I want to balance it out a little bit and talk about rapport building because I believe that rapport building is just as important as learning your theoretical model and learning how to apply your theoretical model through each stage of the change process. I look at it like a stool with three legs. In order for the stool for you to be able to sit on the stool or stand on the stool, you need all three legs. You need all three legs to be equal. Otherwise, you'll have a wobbly stool. And I believe the three legs are theory, because theory drives application, relationship, which is what we're going to talk about today. Relationship is that glue, I believe. And then I believe the other is research and keeping up on some of the current trends and using research to guide us in how we are applying things, what we're focusing on. I don't think research is the end all be all either, which is why it is one leg in the stool and equal to all of the others. So today I want to talk about relationship and how to build strong rapport in play therapy with your clients, including parents or caregivers. When I say parents, I really am using that as more of a generic term. As play therapists, we know there are a variety of adults or grown-ups who fulfill that role for children. Could be children are not living with their parents. Maybe they are in foster care, or maybe they're living with another family member. So when I say parents, it's more generic in nature. So I would love to see who is here today joining me on the live stream. So if you would post your name in the comments, I would love to see who's here. What population do you work with? Are you using play therapy? Where are you using play therapy? Where are you from? And if you're watching on the replay, I would still love to know who's watching, where you work, what population you work with. And also, if you are listening on the podcast episode, welcome. And I would love to know how you are, what you're finding useful. So please feel free to leave a comment. And if you're listening on the podcast, I would love if you would leave a review. It always is nice to get some of that information and feedback to make sure that I'm on the right track and meeting the needs of the play therapy community. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, and please feel free to share this information across your social media platforms if you find it useful. So let's get started for today. So rapport building. To me, rapport building is really the glue that keeps your clients engaged. They're not going to stay engaged because you know your theory model and you can explain your theory model. They're going to stay engaged because they trust you through all of the change process. We also know from research that children really can't engage their social engagement circuits in order to engage in the play process unless they feel safe. And when they trust you, then they will feel safe in the play therapy process. This also includes parents and caregivers. I am a firm believer that we need to be establishing strong rapport with parents as well as with our child and adolescent clients, because parents need support. You know what I've been pondering so much lately? Especially, so I'm going to talk a little bit more also at the end if you're interested in a family play therapy training, a live webinar that I have coming up. And here's why I'm mentioning that as well as for the topic that we have for today, which is rapport building. I hear all the time, and I was just reading through some articles this week about children's mental health, the mental health crisis, how children are struggling. And I'm a firm believer. I don't know if you guys think the same. I'd love to know your thoughts about what I'm about to say as well. So if you're listening on the podcast, please feel free to reach out and send me an email. I feel like families are struggling. We've been through the pandemic. It created a lot of chaos. I feel like we're still kind of coming out of that with all of the anxiety. But if you're here in the US, we have a lot of other kind of contention going on with the big election coming up, which is really important and creates a lot of, the medias, there's a lot of contention. I also think that the social media platforms and what's going on there. I'm going to do a shout out on Instagram. They didn't know I was going to do this, but I connected recently on Instagram with a channel called Your Brain on Social Media. We were kind of chatting a little bit about doing some collaborative work, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because they're supporting parents, helping parents figure out how to navigate social media for their kids. So why am I mentioning all of this, especially when we're talking about rapport building? Parents are struggling, families are struggling. We know from research that children do best when they have a strong support network, family. And I'm not talking perfect family. I certainly don't have a perfect family. I always laugh. I'm like, oh, we're that outsider family that doesn't fit the mold of what you would think of for your typical mental health therapist family. But through all of our, quirks and imperfections, we stay connected. We love each other. We're still important to each other. And we know we're there for each other. My kids know that we're there for them. And that, they're at that age now, they're kind of young adults. So we kind of hang out in a different way now. But supporting families, I also believe, is important. Building rapport with parents to give parents support. They're bombarded so much with how to be the perfect parent. If you're going to be a parent, you should do it this way. I remember reading all the 9 gazillion books because I didn't get the typically developing kids, but it took me quite a few years to figure that out. In the meantime, I was looking for how to do this, and it's confusing and overwhelming to have that. So when parents build rapport with you, it gives them support. You can help them navigate all this noise going on so that you can be a support to them so they can be a support to their child. So that's what I want to talk about today. Let me check in a little bit. There's a few comments. Hey, Sherry, I forgot to say hi to you last time. Hey, Sherry. Sherry's in my, I saw your name pop up. Sherry's in my Play Therapy Academy program. So let's see who's here. We have, looks like it's, okay. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like we've got a little spam going on YouTube. That's the not so fabulous. I'm going to delete that one. Cool. I didn't know I could do that on StreamYard. Yay. Okay, so let's get started. Why is rapport important? So first, the Association for Play Therapy has did some research, gathered information, and they identified some core competencies for play therapists to learn these skills when they are providing play therapy. So these core competencies, which if you go on the Association for Play Therapy website, you can find the core competencies on there. But competency 2B, I'm going to read it, says a core competency we need to be developing is demonstrate knowledge of rapport building. For example, empathy, safety, unconditional regard by utilizing self in play therapy in relations with children, caregivers, and stakeholders in play therapy. So that whole use of self in play therapy is important. And how do you do that? Because it is still a professional relationship. We still need to be able to maintain that level of professionalism in the play therapy relationship. And we need to show up in a way that we're using ourselves therapeutically. That's really that whole corrective experience that we provide in play therapy through that relationship, which is why it's so important. That developing that ability to connect with clients, connect with parents, provides the anchor that our clients need in order to make it through all of the stages of change. I'm a firm believer this is really, really, really important with parents, because when you're going to be asking parents to do some of those challenging things, they need to be able to trust you. Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. I'm going to have some coffee. If parents are going to make those hard changes that you're asking them to make, they need to trust you. And it'll take a while to build that trust in order for them to make those changes that you're asking them to make. Also, we know that children can't really engage their social engagement circuits unless they feel safe in the sessions. And in order to feel safe, they need to build some of that trust with you. And we're not robots. My husband said that to me years ago as I was lamenting about why I'm not so perfect and how I feel like I'm not doing a good job. This was a couple way, way long ago. And it's frustrating because, we have to look at, okay, so what I'm about to say is a good thing and it's a hard thing. It comes with being in a profession. Our stuff gets activated. This is where self-awareness is important. We need to understand what's going on in us so we can understand what's going on in the sessions. I call it our superpower. When you learn how to hone that, man, that is a superpower. And I am going to talk a little bit about that today. But it also means we have to really be reflective of what's going on. And I feel everything. I have been that way since I was a kid, and I feel it deeply. So it can be so overwhelming. But one of the things my husband said to me this long, long time ago was, you're not a robot. Of course, you're going to have these experiences. And he's not a therapist. He's nowhere near a therapist field. So I always, it's these pearls of wisdom that I get from him that kind of, I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm grounded again. No, I'm not perfect. Don't have to be perfect. So what does that mean in my profession? How do I show up? How do I use myself authentically in the session in a professional way? And I believe that's part of the journey that we are working through as play therapists to figure that out. I kind of decided like this. So I've been in the mental health field. I got started in graduated with my master's degree in social work back in 1992. Now, I have always wanted to work with children, adolescents, and families ever since I was a kid. I wanted to save the world. That is what I was going to do. And then I realized I can't save the world, but I can have a really good influence on the people in I call it my sphere of influence. And so as a play therapist, what does that mean? What that means is, for me, like those first 5 years out of graduate school and working towards licensing and learning how to do this and being self-conscious about everything, I did everything by the book. I was very professional, by the book. I didn't really let much of myself out very much because I was afraid of not being professional and still learning everything. But somewhere along the line, I kind of realized, you know what? I like to have fun. I'm going to be doing this job like 40 hours a week. I really need to have fun. And it's hard. This is a hard job. So for me, that therapeutic use of self means I show up authentically within the session in a professional way, understanding we're not friends, we're not buddies, we're not family. This is a client relationship in which there are professional standards in order to protect clients, and that's a good thing. And within that framework, how do I show up authentically with my clients? But the other part of that is I want to tap into becoming attuned. And so Daniel Siegel talks about resonant circuits. So that ability to be attuned mind to mind, even physiologically, means in the old days, we called it transference and countertransference. Now I kind of lean heavily into resonant circuits where we're kind of picking up what's going on within this interaction, in this relationship, in this professional and authentic relationship. And so figuring out how to do that is a really important part of being able to use self authentically in that play therapy process. And that's going to look different. Like my version of authentic use of self is going to look a little different than your authentic version in that therapeutic use of self. And that's what each of us, I believe, has to figure out. What is that going to look like? But the thing is, if you are able to be attuned in the sessions with your clients, then that gives you the ability to pick up on cues of what's going on to better understand your clients and use those cues to help guide you through the session to session to session through each stage of the play therapy process. So that brings me to my next point that I wanted to discuss today, which is be fully present. And especially in the beginning when you're just getting started and you're trying to figure out how to bring that balance between theory and application, therapeutic relationship, and making sure you're staying up on what are the current I don't always like that word trends because some trends are not very good. Um, but and research can guide us. Research has its flaws as well. So I don't think we can only rely on research. I think the three things together, grounding our work in the theory, and theory gives us roots. Research makes sure that we're staying up to date on what's actually working and what's not working with all of its flaws. And the relationship is what keeps clients feeling safe and connected. And it's like the glue. So we want all three. The thing is, to be fully present means you really have to let go of imposter syndrome. And I've talked about this in previous sessions. So if you want to take a deeper dive in previous episodes, I've talked about imposter syndrome. I would say the easiest place to find some of the previous episodes would be my YouTube channel, Kathy Spooner, Renewing Hearts Training. If you're in my Facebook group, Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground is just for therapists who are using play therapy and expressive arts. If you're interested and you're on Facebook, you can feel free to go over and join the group. You have to answer all the questions or you won't get admitted. I keep all of the recordings in the featured section. If you're watching on YouTube, you can probably find some of them in my grid, but a lot of them, they might not necessarily be on YouTube. So the easiest place would be to find them on YouTube. So if you're interested in some of these topics, I go into them a lot more in depth. And imposter syndrome is going to keep you from being fully present in the moment because all of your insecurities are going to pop up. You're going to tell yourself in your head, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand. They're going to figure out at any moment that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm a big giant fraud. And they're going to pull their child from treatment, which means I'm a big giant failure. Like we all have this. If you're new or kind of new, the likelihood you've struggled with imposter syndrome is really high. Here's what I always say, especially to people just getting started. Lean into therapeutic rapport. You're not going to do everything perfectly. Anytime we're learning something new, we're never going to do it perfectly. That's even true for me now when I'm learning new things. Nobody ever does it perfectly. In play therapy, and especially with parents, leaning into building rapport, building trust, listening deeply, helping them feel heard, understood, that felt sense of safety and connection, that in and of itself is a corrective and healing experience. So when you are feeling a little lost, recognize the imposter syndrome in your head going on, let it go. Lean into professional relationship with its boundaries. Tune into your client, listen deeply, help them feel felt, heard, and understood. That will help you through to facilitate that healing when you're not always sure what's going on. I still, 30 years later, I don't always know what's going on. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure out what is going on. And that doesn't have to derail the process. This is that whole saying that we have in play therapy of trust the process. Trust the process means build rapport, be fully present in the moment, lean into your theory model as much as possible while you're learning to help you navigate through the change process. And that will help to get you through. And making sure you're building rapport with parents. That's really, really important. So, how does this look in a family play therapy session? Because I'm a big fan of family play therapy sessions. I feel like if you want to know what's going on in the family, get the parent, at the very least, get the parent and child in there together. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my attachment-focused family play therapy model. So it uses attachment and neuroscience as the theoretical foundation to guide through each stage of the change process. Here's the thing, though, when you have family members, if you have just parent and child in the session, or maybe you have just siblings in the play therapy session, or maybe you have the whole family in there, and you are leaning into that therapeutic rapport. You can use the play process. Children love to play. They're always going to want to engage in play. So if you can find, different things that will help them engage in the play process, engage in the therapeutic powers of play, helping parents know, helping them know what their role is in the session, helping them engage playfully with their kids. That's how you're building the rapport. You're using the play process. You're leaning in to really get to know and build relationship. So the activities that you're choosing are going to focus on that. Then even with family play therapy, you can create that safety and security in the therapy sessions. I know I get questions about that a lot. Like, why would you want to have everybody in there? Because, they're all struggling. And in my mind, why would I mean, there are some exceptions and there are ways to go about doing it. And I may structure it in certain ways. And why would I not? They're family, they live together. Why would I not want to help them create relationships that they're going to have for a lifetime together? I mean, this is their support network. Think about the lasting change you can make when you help them all build those strong relationships and make some shifts in the family system. And you can do that different ways. And being able to get them in there and build that rapport and build that safety to create that change for the whole family system that has the ability to last a whole lifetime. Why would I not want to do that? It's easier just to have one person. It's easier just to have the client in there, but that doesn't always mean it's going to get the deepest and most lasting change. So I'm also a believer that with family play therapy, you can build rapport with your clients. So how do you go about doing that? So one, making sure you're letting go of imposter syndrome. So one of the I would say like foundational ways of building strong rapport as you're being fully present, letting go of imposter syndrome, is focusing on congruence. So congruence is the ability to connect internally what we're also demonstrating externally. So that ability to tap into unconditional positive regard and empathy, because these are the healing ingredients, and allow that to externally be demonstrated in my interaction. So I have to, this is where that self-awareness comes in. Am I congruent? Something happened. Something in me got triggered. Wait, is this me or is it my client that I'm picking up on, or both of us? So what do I need to do to use that information if I need to, and get back to that unconditional positive regard and empathy in this session, facilitating my model, however it is that I need to facilitate my model. This is true when you're meeting with parents also, really developing that unconditional positive regard and empathy when you're connecting with parents as well. And sometimes it takes a little longer to build rapport with parents because their imposter syndrome is usually on high alert, and they're usually looking for signs that you, as a play therapist, are judging them, which you probably are not doing. And their children struggling has kind of activated all of their imposter syndrome and feeling like failure most of the time. So being able to build that rapport with parents is really, really important, because parents aren't going to make the changes you're asking them to make unless they trust you. And in order to trust you, they need to experience unconditional positive regard and empathy from you. Now, there's always boundaries around that. We are mandated reporters. So we know there are limits. We know there are things that, even though we can be compassionate and empathetic, and we still need to address if it's a safety thing or falls within some of those mandated reporting parameters. So, but the important thing is, for most of us, the important thing is that we are building rapport with children. We're using congruence to demonstrate unconditional positive regard and empathy, to build trust, to build safety. And that's what helps our clients engage in the change process. So that is it for today. Let me do a quick recap. So we talked about, why is rapport important? Developing that therapeutic rapport is really the glue that keeps your clients in the change process, helps them through all of the stages of change, helps parents feel like they can trust you, especially when you're asking them to do hard things. And they will stay engaged through all of the stages of change in your play therapy model. The second thing is being fully present. In order to be fully present in the moment, so you can be attuned and have that congruence, you have to let go of your imposter syndrome. Notice when your imposter syndrome gets activated. Make sure you're working on your imposter syndrome. It will shut you down and cause you not to be effective. None of us are perfect. Nobody does it perfect all of the time. When you're learning, it's going to take time to learn how to get through all of the stages and learn how to apply your theory model effectively with your clients, with a variety of different kinds of clients coming in with different presenting issues. So you want to make sure that you are being fully present. In order to do that, you have to let go of your imposter syndrome. And the final thing we talked about today is congruence. So congruence with unconditional positive regard and empathy allows you to be fully present in the session with your clients and create that corrective healing experience for them. This also includes congruence when you're working with parents. And I would say, as play therapists, the importance of the work that we do with parents, the importance of the support that we provide to parents, is equally as important as the work we do with our child and adolescent clients, because parents need us to support them so they can be that support to their child through the rest of their lives. Again, this is one of the reasons I love attachment-focused family play therapy, getting everybody in the session, or at least parent-child or different kind of subsets of the family in there, to really create that corrective healing experience and to support parents to be doing this with their kids. So that is it for today. If you're interested, I have a live webinar coming up on September 14th. It's called Attachment Focused Family Play Therapy. So in this, I'm gonna go through, and I like to ground the trainings that I'm doing in a kind of a theoretical model. And the theoretical model that I use for this family play therapy model that I created is really focused on using attachment theory and neuroscience to kind of guide and understand the focus that we're working on, and then using that when you're figuring out what's going on with clients, how to engage, figuring out what the relationship patterns are, where are the strengths in the family system, where are the strengths in parenting, And then where are areas where they need some support for change, really focused on building those secure relationships within the family system, within parents and their child. But also, I really feel like in the play therapy community, we I don't know if undervalue is the right word. Um, we don't really take into consideration the power of sibling relationships. I mean, I don't know about you, but you'll see on social media celebrating Brother Day. I think that's the current one. I saw something on one of my social media platforms recently about celebrating brothers, celebrating sisters. We celebrate them because they're important. Sibling relationships are important. And if we can support and help strengthen those relationships, in my mind, why would we not want to do that for our clients? So in the attachment focused family play therapy model, what I do is we go over the kind of the theoretical groundwork of attachment and neuroscience and how that helps to understand the role of parents, helps to understand and identify relationship patterns, because those are going to be what you're focusing on. And then what does that look like in each stage of the change process? How do you choose different interventions based on what's going on? How do you what kind of interventions do you choose depending on what stage of change you're in? So we go over all of that. We'll go over different activities. If you're interested in that, it's a live webinar on September 14th. So we'll put some links in the comments below. You can pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com/courses. There are 2 versions. So if you're able to make the live webinar and participate that way, then you can register for the live webinar version. But maybe you're not available, or maybe it's not a time that works for you. Maybe you're outside of the United States and it's during the middle of the night for you. There's going to be a recorded version. So if you want the recorded version, then you can register for that. And you probably want to take advantage of this soon, because right now there's early bird pricing. It's usually the training is $87. If you register early, and we'll put this information in the comments as well. It's also on the registration page. You get a discount for registering early before August 24th. So you'll want to take advantage of that and register soon. So that is it for this week. I will see you next week. Bye for now.